You ever feel like you're just drowning, like
Yeah.
in this sea of information, choices, tasks, advice? It's just
Right.
constant.
Completely. It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah. And in this modern world, everything's screaming for our attention. How do we actually like cut through all that noise? How do we genuinely get ahead, whether it's learning something new or our careers or even just, personal stuff?
It's a huge challenge.
Well, today we're going on a deep dive. We're looking into a really powerful, almost ancient concept, the idea of concentrating your forces.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just basic focus, is it?
No, exactly. It's more strategic. It's a principle that if you apply it right, it can really define success. But if you ignore it, well, it can lead to absolute ruin.
Yeah, the stakes are high.
Our sources for this deep dive, they come from a pretty fascinating collection, specifically a PDF, Chapter 23, which pulls from like ancient fables, historical accounts, some really deep philosophical insights.
A real mix then.
Definitely. So our mission today is to sort of unpack the core ideas of concentrating your forces. We want to understand when and how to actually use this strategy effectively.
And crucially, when not to.
Exactly. When maybe a different approach is needed. So concentrating forces, it sounds straightforward, but what does it really mean, practically speaking, beyond just, focus?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Fundamentally, it's about realizing that the biggest gains often come from finding one really rich opportunity, like a rich mine, and then just digging deep there, rather than, flitting from one shallow spot to another. There's this core idea that intensity defeats extensity pretty much every time.
So depth over breadth. Don't just scratch the surface everywhere.
Precisely. Instead of chasing a dozen small wells, find that one deep, bountiful one and commit to it.
And this isn't just about resources, right? The sources mention applying this to people too, finding a key patron.
Exactly. Or one of the more colorful phrases used is finding the fat cow who will give you milk for a long time to come.
Huh. Okay, memorable.
It is. But the point is, it's not just about money or resources. It's about finding a single, really powerful source of support or maybe opportunity, and then channeling your energy there for maximum sustained return. It's about focus in relationships, too.
And this idea, it's not new, is it? There's that old fable, the goose and the horse.
Oh, yeah, that's a great illustration.
So the goose is boasting, right?
Yeah.
That it can handle land, air, and water.
But it's-
Super versatile.
Mr. Jack of all trades.
Totally. But the horse just cuts right through it, points out that, real mastery comes from excelling in one thing, not just dabbling everywhere.
The horse basically says, look, you're in 3 elements, but you're not actually impressive in any of them. You fly clumsily, you swim okay, but not like a fish, you waddle on land.
Ouch.
Yeah, and then says, I, however, am confined to the ground, but how graceful is my make? How astonishing my speed. I'd much rather be confined to one element and be admired in that than be a goose in all.
Wow. That really drives the point home. Being great at one thing beats being mediocre at many.
It absolutely cuts to the core. It's this profound difference between superficial presence and true excellence. Johann von Goethe, he echoed this same idea.
What did he say?
He warned, basically, beware of dissipating your powers. Strive constantly to concentrate them. He added that genius often thinks it can do everything it sees others doing.
Right, the temptation to copy.
Exactly. But, he says, genius is sure to repent of every ill-judged outlay. It's a timeless warning against scattering yourself too thin.
Okay, so fables and philosophy point to concentration. But history has some stark warnings too, right? Transgression of the law, this story about the kingdom of Wu.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. We're talking 6th century BC China. Wu was this rising power.
Yeah, ambitious.
But lacking the deep history of its neighbor.
Right. The Middle Kingdom. So the king of Wu gets this idea, elevates his kingdom status fast by defeating this older, more established power. Instant prestige.
Sounds risky. Very. The war starts with some fanfare, some early wins, but then it just bogs down. A victory here leaves them vulnerable somewhere else. Classic overextension.
And someone saw the danger.
Yes, Wu Zizhu, the king's chief minister. A sharp guy. He warns the king, look, the state of Yue to the south, they're noticing we're stretched thin. They're getting ideas.
But the king...
The king's obsessed. Just one more big victory against the Middle Kingdom. He completely dismisses the warnings about Ye, just waves them away.
Uh-oh. I sense disaster looming.
You said right. Around 490 BC, Wu Zizhu sees the writing on the wall. He senses betrayal, the inevitable fall. So he sends his own son away to safety.
Smart move. But the king wouldn't like that.
Not at all. He's furious. Accuses Wu Zizhu of disloyalty, orders him to take his own life.
Terrible.
And before he does, Wu Zizhu cries out these just chilling last words. He tells the king, "Tear out my eyes, O king, and fix them on the gate of Wu, so that I may see the triumphant entry of Ye."
Good Lord, that's intense. Did it happen?
It did. Within just a few years, exactly as predicted, a Yue army marched right under that gate. The barbarians surrounded the palace.
And the king.
The king remembered. He remembered his minister's words, felt those dead eyes watching his failure. He couldn't bear the shame. Killed himself.
Wow, what a stark story.
It really is. And history is just full of examples like this, isn't it? Think of ancient Athens. Drunk on success, they reached for Sicily, overextended, and boom, lost their empire.
Right.
Or the Romans, stretching and stretching their borders, making themselves vast but ultimately more vulnerable. It contributed to their collapse. Sun Tzu, the military strategist, he nailed it. If you are not in danger, do not fight.
So the big takeaway from Wu is just don't overreach. It sounds almost like a physical law.
It really does. Like what
Yeah.
gets bloated beyond its natural proportions just inevitably collapses.
And that applies to the mind, too.
Absolutely. The mind shouldn't wander from goal to goal. Success shouldn't distract you from your core purpose. What's concentrated, what's coherent and connected, that has power.
While anything dissipated, divided, distended.
It just withers, falls apart.
Okay, so that's the peril. But let's flip it. Let's talk about the power of concentration when it works. The Rothschild banking family. That's the prime example, right?
Oh, absolutely. An incredible story of observance of the law. It shows how, even from the humblest beginnings, intense focus can build unbelievable influence.
They started in the Jewish ghetto in Frankfurt.
Yes, where ironically, the harsh laws actually forced this incredible self-reliance and dedication to preserving their culture. It created this powerful concentration, this cohesion within the community and the family.
And the patriarch, Mayor Amschel Rothschild, he understood this instinctively.
Deeply. Instead of trying to serve everyone, he allied himself with one powerful family, the princes of Thurn and Taxis, became their main banker.
Ah, the single patron idea again.
Exactly. And crucially, he kept it all in the family. No outsiders in the business. Only his children, close relatives. He built this system where unity was power.
So when he died, he didn't pick one heir.
No. That was key. On his deathbed in 1812, he refused to name a principal heir. Instead, he set up all 5 sons to continue together, united. Resisting diffusion, resisting outside influence.
Smart. And the sons took this global.
Well, European first. They realized the real key to large-scale wealth was to get a foothold across Europe's finances, not just one country. So they placed the brothers strategically. Nathan was already in London.
Right.
James went to Paris. Amschel stayed in Frankfurt. Salomon to Vienna. Karl to Naples. Covered the key hubs. Tightened their grip.
And how did they manage that network without diffusing their power? That seems like the big challenge.
That's where their genius for concentration really kicks in. They fought the danger of diffusion by doubling down on concentration, specifically through secrecy and speed.
How so?
They set up the fastest courier system in Europe, basically gave them a monopoly on crucial financial information. First mover advantage every time.
And secrecy.
Their internal messages were all in Frankfurt Yiddish, written as secret code only the brothers knew. Even other savvy bankers couldn't figure it out. One competitor admitted, even the shrewdest bankers cannot find their way through the Rothschild maze.
Wow. An information fortress. And this extended to family life too, didn't it? The marriage policy.
Oh yes, very much so. In 1824, James married his niece, Salomon's daughter. This started a policy, I think this source says 18 marriages among the children, and 16 of those were between first cousins.
16. That's intense concentration.
Extremely. Salomon summed it up perfectly. We are like the mechanism of a watch. Each part is essential. Every part moving together, the inner workings totally hidden.
And this strategy worked through all the chaos of the 19th century.
Amazingly well. The Industrial Revolution, the French Revolution, all that turmoil, their tight-knit, concentrated strategy let them not just preserve their wealth, but massively expand it. Concentration was the absolute bedrock of their power, their wealth, their stability. It shows how anchoring in your core, maintaining that cohesion, lets you thrive even when the world outside is chaotic.
Okay, incredible story. So let's bring this into today, the keys to power. How relevant is this idea of concentration for us, in our own lives, Professional or personal?
Oh, hugely relevant. I mean,
Yeah.
look around. The modern world often feels like it's pulling us in a million directions,
Mm.
right? Total distraction, total diffusion within countries, politics, even within ourselves.
Yeah, definitely feel that.
So the solution, one source suggests, is a kind of retreat inward toward more concentrated thought, more focused action. Schopenhauer put brilliantly, intellect is a magnitude of intensity, not a magnitude of extensity. It's about depth, not just spread.
Quality over quantity in thinking.
Precisely. Think about single-mindedness in action. Napoleon on the battlefield. His genius was concentrating his forces right at the enemy's weakest point. Overwhelmed them there.
Makes sense.
And his mind, his willpower was the same. Total focus on the goal. That kind of focused energy aimed at people who are less focused, it hits the mark.
Any other examples?
Well, Casanova, maybe surprisingly,
Yep.
the legendary seducer. He said his success not just with women but in everything, like his crazy escape from prison.
Right.
It all came down to concentrating on one goal and just pushing and pushing until it gave way. He believed when a man gets it into his head to do something, he must succeed. That level of sheer focused will.
Talk about commitment. So applying that in the world of power, we often need help from others, right? People more powerful than us.
Always.
The source says the fool flits around trying to get support from everyone, spreading thin.
Yes, believing that's safer. But a key corollary to this law of concentration is you actually save energy and gain more power by attaching yourself to one single appropriate source of power.
Be a patron. Okay, find the right patron.
The right one. Consider Nikola Tesla. Brilliant inventor by
What happened with him?
He kind of ruined himself believing he could stay independent by not serving a single master. He actually turned down a rich contract from J.P. Morgan, thought he could juggle funding from lots of different people.
Big mistake.
Huge. In the end, his independence meant he couldn't really depend on anyone. Always scrambling, always having to, as the source says, toady up to a dozen patrons. He realized it later, but the damage was done.
Ouch. So who got it right?
Well, think about the Renaissance, of figures like Pietro Aretino, the writer, or Michelangelo, Galileo. They found incredible freedom and power through a single, dedicated patron.
Like Michelangelo and Pope Julius II.
Exactly. Or Galileo with the Medicis. Aretino, after years of pleasing various princes, finally focused on Emperor Charles V, promised him his pen. And in that single attachment, he found real power, real liberation. Because that one patron truly valued their loyalty, became dependent on them. It gets to the point where sometimes the master serves the slave.
Interesting dynamic. And power itself within organizations tends to concentrate too, right? It's not always spread out evenly.
Never. It's almost inevitable that a small group ends up holding the real strings. And often, it's not the people with the fancy titles. Richelieu discovered that in 17th century France. It wasn't King Louis XIII pulling all the levers behind the scenes.
So you have to figure out who really has the power.
You have to find the real center of gravity, the real director. You can't just flail about. You need to fix your target.
It all comes back to that image you mentioned earlier, the arrow.
Yes. Such a powerful image. You can't hit two targets with one arrow. If your thoughts wander, you miss the enemy's heart.
Mind and arrow become one.
Exactly. That's the concentration needed. Mental and physical power aligned. Balthazar Gracian summed it up so well. Prize intensity more than extensity. Perfection resides in quality, not quantity.
Okay, that's a compelling case for concentration. Massive power and focus. But, there has to be a but, right? This wouldn't be a deep dive without the reversal. Are there dangers? Times when maybe spreading out is the right move?
Absolutely. There are definitely dangers and crucial moments when dispersion, not concentration, is the smart tactical play.
Like when?
Well, dispersion often suits the weaker side. Think about guerrilla warfare. When Mao Zedong and the communists fought the nationalists in China, they were weaker initially.
Right.
So they used dispersion. Protracted war, multiple fronts, sabotage, ambushes. If you concentrate your smaller force against a stronger army, you just make yourself an easier target. Sometimes it's much better to just, dissolve into the scenery, frustrate the enemy because they can't pin you down.
Makes sense. Hit and run don't offer a big target. What about the patron idea? Is there a danger in relying too much on that one source of power?
Oh, definitely. That's probably the biggest danger. Tying your fate entirely to one person, if that person falls from grace or leaves or dies, your whole power structure can just evaporate.
Like Cicero Borgia.
Perfect example. His power came almost entirely from his father, Pope Alexander VI. The Pope gave him armies, resources, wars to fight. But when the Pope suddenly died, Cicero, who'd made tons of enemies,
Suddenly had no backup.
none, left Totally exposed. His power just collapsed almost overnight.
So what's the counter strategy there if you need protection?
Well, sometimes it's actually wiser to weave yourself around several sources of power, mitigates the risk if one falls, and, sometimes you can even play them off against each other a bit.
A bit more complex, maybe safer?
It can be, but even if you do go with a single patron, you still need to be cautious. Prepare for the day they might not be there. Don't get complacent.
Okay. And one final danger. Can you be too single-minded, like to the point where it's counterproductive?
Yeah, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Especially maybe in the arts or creative fields, being too focused can make you, well, an intolerable bore, as one source puts it.
Example.
The Renaissance painter, Paolo Uccello. He became utterly obsessed with the mathematics of perspective. Technically brilliant, sure. But his paintings, they often feel kind of lifeless, contrived,
Mm-hmm.
all technique, maybe less soul, because that one thing overshadowed everything else.
Interesting. Who's the contrast then?
Leonardo da Vinci. For him, you could argue his diffusion was the source of his power.
Because he was into everything.
Everything, architecture, painting, war machines, sculpture, anatomy, mechanics. His curiosity was boundless, and that cross-pollination of ideas, that was his strength.
But Leonardo was, Leonardo. A rare genius.
Exactly. That's the crucial caveat. Such genius is incredibly rare. For most of us, probably 99.9% of us, erring on the side of intensity, focusing deeply on a few key areas. That's generally the much better, much more effective path. Leonardo's almost the exception that proves the rule.
Right. So for most people, concentration is still the default best strategy.
I think generally, yes. The potential rewards are huge.
Okay, so we've really dug into this tension, haven't we? The immense power you get from concentrating your forces historically, in business, in life.
Mhm. But also those critical moments, those exceptions, where maybe strategic dispersion or a broader view is actually vital for survival, or maybe even for creativity.
So for everyone listening, as you think about your own journey, learning something new, navigating your career, focusing on personal goals, how do these ideas land with you?
Yeah, how do they apply?
What arrow maybe are you concentrating your focus on right now? And maybe think about what might you be overlooking because you're so focused? Or perhaps what are you missing out on because you're not concentrating enough? Something to mull over.